Hey, what's up? Hello everyone, welcome into Fantasy Filmball, the show where we turn movies into sports and sports into something we don't talk about here. My name is Matt.
My name is Dyl, and today we are talking about one of the biggest blockbusters of the summer, and that is Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. But before we can dive into this movie review, we have a fun game coming up here on the channel that I feel like a lot of people would love to be a part of. So Matt, tell everyone what is coming up in the next month.
The name of our channel is Fantasy Filmball, and that's not just because we turn movies into sports here. It is because we play a game called Fantasy Filmball, and you can join. Yes, you out there, you can join our game. Just join the Discord in the description down below and sign up before August 15th. The way the game works, you draft 10 movies that are going to be eligible in this year's award season. Through the award season, those movies will collect points, and the person with the most points collectively from their team of 10 movies at the end of the year will win the game. I really highly suggest y'all join before August 15th. And with that said, let's get into Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. One of my most anticipated movies of the year. Tom Cruise is back on his bullshit again, trying to destroy his body and kill himself on camera. This series has been around for an absurd amount of time. It's insane that Tom Cruise has been doing this series for 27 years. It has had some ups, some downs, and a lot of crazy times in there. Dylan, what do you think about Mission Impossible?
I was a little late to this series. I never really watched these growing up, and I think it was around the time Ghost Protocol came out. It was the first one I really noticed. The McQuarrie ones are the ones I know the best. So before that, I'm a little hazy one, but the McQuarrie ones I thoroughly enjoy. I think they're very fun. They're very much turn your brain off, enjoy what's going on, but they're still quality. It's not like the Fast and Furious ones. Coming to this one, I was super duper excited and really interested to see where Tom Cruise is going to take his shenanigans up to another level.
I'm up and down on the series. Like you, I'd say most familiar with the McQuarrie era. I really like Rogue Nation. I think Fallout is one of the greatest action movies of all time. I think it actually has an argument to be a top 10 action movie ever made. Before that, Brian De Palma made one of these movies. That's a really good one. Meanwhile, the J.J. Abrams directed Mission Impossible 3, I think is kind of not good. I'm not a big fan of Ghost Protocol either, despite how crazy the stunts are. The thing that sets Mission Impossible apart from other spy movies like James Bond or Jason Bourne is that it comes with absolute dedication from Tom Cruise to entertainment. He knows what audiences want to see, and he is committed to delivering it as authentically as he possibly can. And after Mission Impossible Fallout's success, after Top Gun Maverick last year, the question on everyone's mind is, did Tom Cruise deliver on the expectations that he has built up with moviegoers?
Mr. Movies knows how to make a movie. It's just, for me, I think I was expecting a little bit more here at least. Like, I had fun and I was entertained, but at the same time, I was like, I feel like they were building this up to be a lot bigger than it actually was. And I don't know if I'm alone in that, but overall, like, I would say he delivered in some aspects, but in others, I was left severely, I don't know if underwhelmed's the right word, just expecting a little bit more. But like, with all that being said, this is not a bad movie at all.
It's a very good movie, but I have to agree with you. I think this is a great spy movie. It is a very, very interesting story. It's got good characters, but I think we all expected more stunts. Honestly, I think Tom Cruise kind of shot himself in the foot by creating such astronomical expectations for what one of these movies should be. With Rogue Nation, he was hanging off the side of a jet. With Fallout, he jumped out of the back of a plane. Not just that, there's scenes where he's riding a motorbike at fast pace through traffic. There's scenes where he's jumping across rooftops from building to building that was not simulated. He's driving a helicopter. He's hanging off of the edge of a helicopter. Fallout was just every single scene, every set piece led up to the most insane stunt you'd ever seen. And when the marketing for this movie came out and they focused so much on the one jump of the bike going off the cliff, I was like, oh, it's really cool that they're showing one of the stunts off, because I'm sure they're hiding a lot more. And they weren't. That was the only big stunt in the movie. Everything else felt like it could have been done in a studio. They were still really great set pieces. I particularly liked the set piece on the train where they were moving from carriage to carriage as the cars kept falling down. But we know that wasn't actually being done. I think the authenticity was missing a little bit. Mission Impossible as a series was never like Fallout before. Every movie had one or two big stunts, but for the most part, they were just spy movies. It's crazy to watch Fallout and then go and watch the first Mission Impossible movie. There are next to no stunts at all in that movie. It is just like a James Bond American take. I do think that Tom Cruise kind of made it with Fallout, that no matter how good of a movie he delivered with Dead Reckoning Part 1, there was no way it would live up to the expectations created by Fallout.
We are talking about stunts here. I really did enjoy some of these set pieces. While there may not have been a lot of stunts in them, that airport sequence I thought was very well executed. And for me, at least, that was a lot more engaging than the motorcycle jump or the actions on the train. At least for me, I was so invested in that, and I thought that was hitting the nail on like everything I wanted from this movie, which I know dives more into the spy area. We got to see our entire main cast of characters all interact, and it was funny, it was engaging, it was thrilling, and it had some good action. And the score, which I felt like was missing in a lot of parts of this movie, there's just like no score at all, was prevalent in those scenes at least.
I also agree that the airport sequence was great, especially as Benji is trying to defuse the bomb. It just had that tension that you want out of Mission Impossible. But again, I kind of wanted more stunts. I think what sets Mission Impossible apart is the mixing of the stunts with that more traditional spy stuff. And here I didn't get that mix. It was just more spy stuff than anything. Also, some of it felt a little bit too convoluted. Having an AI as the villain of the movie, while it's an interesting concept that I think is very relevant to current society, I don't know if you got this vibe, Dylan, but I totally got the vibe of science fiction jargon writing, where a writer is trying to talk about a concept that they clearly know nothing about, so they just make up a bunch of bullshit words and they just say them in a way where they go, well, no one's gonna understand this, so it doesn't matter that I don't understand this. It felt like the writers had no fucking idea what the entity was or what it was capable of.
Yeah, and what makes it even more confusing is that opening sequence, everything before the main title drop, it just feels very out of place to me, because they basically tell the audience what the entity is, what it can do, and what the key is, and then we spend the rest of the movie with all of our cast of characters not knowing what it does, even though we have already been told what it does. So like, that just felt very odd. We get into the actual plot of the movie, and I do agree the entity is a weird villain. I think that Gabriel is a great villain. He has so much mystery to him that everything else in this movie really didn't feel like it had. When you're going against Tom Cruise, you need to at least be a little bit cool, and Gabriel felt like he can match the coolness to a T. But my biggest issue with the story and basically everything in this movie is I felt like an arm length away from everyone in there. Like, obviously we know Ethan Hunt, we know his friends. I didn't feel like we were ever supposed to like the writers ever made us really care about anyone. And this is a spoiler discussion. It's in the thumbnail, and we said at the beginning, so dive into full spoilers. If you haven't seen this, go watch it. But like, when characters that we're supposed to care about die, I felt nothing, and I didn't feel like I was alone in that, at least. And then we hit our end of this movie. It's like, yeah, that was part one. Cool. It didn't really feel like I watched anything. This felt like a filler movie. Besides seeing what the key actually does for the characters, I don't feel like there's really much more to go on to, at least with this storyline.
That CIA scene, I think that's one of the worst edited scenes.
Yes.
Oh my god, every time they'd be like, the entity, and they'd cut back to the Tom Cruise mask guy. Oh god, the editing in that scene was so bad. The editing in this movie in general is, I would say, not great. There's some weird cuts in this movie. The editing is so on the nose. It's so obvious what you're supposed to be looking at any time, what you're supposed to be feeling. But yeah, I think I'm a little bit tired of the convention of this series being that Ethan always has to go rogue, the government always has to be chasing after him. I'm tired of every Mission Impossible movie feeling like they're constantly operating at a Grand Theft Auto 5-star rating, where every single government agency is chasing after them. Chase sequence in Paris was exhausting. Can we just have like one chase going on instead of 5 different chases happening at the same time? Every single Mission Impossible movie has that same plot element. Can we just get one Mission Impossible movie where the government believes in what he's doing? They make that joke in the movie too. They're like, isn't it weird that every single time he goes rogue, he turns out to be right the whole time?
That scene was played for comedic effect, but I think this movie's actually pretty funny. There's a lot of jokes here. I feel like when they try to be funny, it works more often than not. In addition, I already mentioned Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt. Ethan Hunt as Tom Cruise. Maybe he's not doing death-defying stunts in this movie, but you still buy everything that he's going through. I say Gabriel's a great villain. I stand by that, even though we don't know much about him. I feel that's kind of good. We don't want to learn too much. That's where part 2 may dive a little bit more into. And Haley Atwell is a great new addition to this cast. Her connection with the group as a whole, but specifically with Ethan, that's the part I did feel a little bit more connected to.
Like you said, Tom Cruise is Ethan Hunt is Tom Cruise. I think his performance in Fallout was really amazing. Here, I don't know if I felt the same about his performance, but he still inhabits the character. I thought Haley Atwell, like you said, was great. I thought Rebecca Ferguson was also really, really good while she was in the movie. Simon Pegg was a lot of fun. Pom Klementieff was also a really intimidating villain. There's so much to like here, and it is an excellent spy movie. It's just not Fallout, and that is going to be a really hard thing for this movie to overcome.
Yeah, and I think that kind of carries over to its box office performance as well, because I've seen some people, I know we were a little high on this movie, but I've seen some people say this can make $1 billion. I'm like, always like, no Mission Impossible movie's gotten close to that. Why would this one do? And I think we're seeing that play out now. It's a part 1, 2, it's not as good as its predecessor, and 3, it's just coming out in a very weird time. It came out on a Wednesday. While those can help sometimes, it also hurts your overall weekend opening numbers because those aren't really the first 3 days, and it's not really going to have those premium formats for as long because Oppenheimer comes out, it has that book for 3 weeks. Paramount knew this for about a year. It didn't really do anything about it. I know they couldn't have predicted Indiana Jones to be as big of a flop as it was, but in retrospect, Monday Morning Quarterback, you move closer to that release and you can capitalize on an extra week of premium screens. To me, I feel like that plays a part into its underperformance at the box office so far. When you have a part 1 and a part 2 and you put in the title, people will hold out because they don't want to wait. That's part of the reason why I think Across the Spider-Verse is doing so well. It dropped the part 1 for its title, therefore a lot of people went to that movie like, oh, this isn't the full movie, there's another one coming out. With this one, they already know it's not the full movie, so why rush your way out opening weekend? And some people, as we mentioned before, were predicting big things at the box office, but they were also saying maybe some Oscar love. But then again, just like how this franchise has never hit $1 billion, it's never scored an Oscar nomination. And after seeing this movie, I feel like we can at least agree, and a lot of people out there can as well, this is not getting a nomination for anything unless they add a stunts category, which still, as you both said, there's not a lot of stunts here, but would still probably muster its way into that category.
If Mission Impossible Fallout couldn't win Best Stunt Ensemble at the Screen Actors Guild Awards, I would feel shaky about this even getting nominated there this year. I do think it will because, again, Tom Cruise has some good will carrying through from Top Gun Maverick. It's definitely not winning. If anything, this is not as strong as John Wick Chapter 4 for the stunts. I don't think this has any Oscar chances at all. None of the other movies have. And before we move into our final question of should you draft this for your Fantasy Filmball game, I do want to ask, Dylan, what do you want to get out of Dead Reckoning Part 2?
I hope to see something a little bit bigger. I don't need 10 little stunts. I'm cool with just one big one. So like, this is going to be the final Tom Cruise Mission Impossible movie. I want to see him do his most outrageous stunt, obviously do it safely, but like his most outrageous stunt, as well as a fitting conclusion, not just for these 2 movies, but for at least the McQuarrie series of Mission Impossible, if not the full thing overall. I guess just giving some more love to some of the side characters. While we did get to see them in this movie, I didn't really feel like we got a lot with them, so getting some final wrap-ups with them and getting to learn more about where they're standing at, their relation to Ethan, and what they're going to do after would be very rewarding, at least for me as an audience member.
I guess for me, what I want to see is more danger. I want them to go all out with some of this. I would love to see a diving scene below the ice. I want to see authentic danger. I want to be worried for Tom Cruise's health and safety as I watch this movie, which I always felt in Fallout and I rarely felt in this film. And with that said, should you draft this movie? And my answer is no. Do not draft this movie. I don't think that this is going to cross 200. I think it's very possible this doesn't cross 100. I don't know if this is going to have the legs to really run up points through the game. Just think about what awards this can be nominated for and win. There's not a whole lot. You'd be banking on SAG Stunt Ensemble, and that's not even in the bag.
If you're going to touch this, touch in the 10th round that way. If you want to get rid of it in a month, you can. If you just want to bank some early points. But still, in this game, you don't really want to be winning out front. You want to stay closer to the bottom for a few months. That way you have higher priorities once you get to the waivers. So I agree with Matt. Probably stay away from this movie unless there's just really nothing out there that you know. But if you don't know anything, feel free to come subscribe to this channel and look at some of our other videos. We're going to be having a full mock draft come out here shortly, as well as just our, monthly predictions where we have a lot of films ranked and where we think they could get nominations. So you can always probably find a sleeper movie a little bit further down in those rankings. But until next time, my name is Dyl.
And my name is Matt, and this is Fantasy Filmball.